Hi there, welcome to Floating in Dreams. These are my favorite eyeshadow palettes for fair skin. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. This video is going to be for all my fellow snow angels. As you can see, it's the height of summer and still I'm like pasty pale. For reference, in most foundation shades, I am very often one of the lightest shades in any foundation category that they have on offer. I struggle finding good foundation shades because of that, especially in more affordable ranges. A lot of things are often too dark for me, or where I live, the lightest shades that brands say are going to be available aren't even available. Like, it's a struggle sometimes. And I also find that with eyeshadow, if you have fair skin like me, things can look differently than when you have a light to medium or medium to deep skin tone. Because my skin is just so fair, deeper shades tend to all look the same on me. So I have tried so many eyeshadow palettes in the past that I really adored, but they would have like 5 dark shades and they would all look black on me. Like there was color nuance if you looked at it in the pan, but then on my skin that nuance just disappeared. So I tend to like lighter things, you could say. So that's what this video is all about. There will be a mix here of cool tones, warm tones, rosy tones, like just to give you a little bit of a like spectrum of things, you could say. So that if you do have a fair skin tone, no matter where you fall on the spectrum of fair skin, whether you have a cool undertone or a warm undertone or an olive undertone, that you can still find something that is right for you. So let me get started to chatting to you about these 10 palettes that I've selected from my collection to share with you what I think are really good palettes for fair skin. So first things first are some really small things, and I just want to get them out of the way because they're sliding everywhere at the minute. But it's this little Viseart guy. This is the Petit for Lilas. The bigger Lilas that they came out with this year is currently in my Shop My Stash, and I'm testing it out for you this month to review it. So if you want to know what the bigger Lilas looks like, I've got you covered. It's coming this month. It's coming. But I just think that this is beautiful if you have fair skin, and especially if you like your cool tones. You get 2 lighter mattes here and then a sort of lighter and a medium tone shimmer, which is perfect for me. For a quick, easy, everyday look, I think something like this is absolutely stunning, works so well on fair skin. And the Viseart formula in particular is one I want to mention here. It is one of my favorite formulas. I shared that with you earlier in the month, and the reason why I like them so much is how easy they are to blend and how it never looks like too much. Even if you do have the deeper shades, in a lot of the palettes, they are still workable, they are still blendable, and it's not going to look like you were punched in the face, which is something that I do sometimes struggle with eyeshadows that are more pigmented. Those can be harder to blend, and when you blend them out, they just kind of go everywhere. So for me, especially with my fair skin, I like something that's just super easy to work with and that takes the work out of it for me, you could say. And Viseart always does that. Not just Lilas, any Viseart palette I've ever tried has done that for me. And a brand that doesn't get enough praise for their powder formula is Glossier. This is so beautiful for fair skin. The reason for it being is that it comes in heaps of colors. I have cool toned options, but this also comes in like almost like a terracotta orange. It looks stunning. If you have green eyes, that's going to be your palette. I'm holding up Mist here, and Mist is sort of like these lavender, heathery, purple sort of shades here. I really like these, and the reason why I rate these very highly for fair skin especially is, again, these are light, they're easy to work with. This is the Glossier side of things where it's like, you know, you're one and done, easy to use sort of things. That's what Glossier stands for a lot of the times, and these eyeshadows are no different. Don't expect these to go on like, boom, kapow, in your face, because that's not what you're gonna get. But you do get a matte, you get a satin, and a metallic, so you do have some options. The only thing I'm missing here is like a 4th shade. Like, I wish this was like a quad, and that there was a matte that was slightly deeper than this, just so I can have something that I can use as liner, because that's what I very often use like blacks and dark browns for, is I just use them as liner. I can't use them to, like, I can't really use them in my outer corner or to deepen out a look, because if I do that, it's just gonna look weird. But yeah, with this, I'm sort of missing it almost. But especially if you're someone who doesn't do a lot of liner, or if you have very hooded eyes and liner doesn't work for you, look into these Glossier palettes because they come in so many different color stories that there's going to be something there for everyone. But formula-wise, they all have this sort of soft, ethereal, easy to blend formula that's going to work beautiful if you have fair skin. Speaking of formulas that work really beautifully if you have fair skin, K-Beauty. K-Beauty is where it's at. These are all going to be really soft focused things. They do have interesting shimmers, but very often they're not in palettes. They are sold as singles, so you don't get all of those really sparkly shimmers if that's what you're not looking for, but the mattes are always excellent. You can tell from how much I've used this palette that the lettering is starting to come off, but this is by Romand, and this is the Better Than Dreamy Lilac Garden. I've been recommending this thing for years. Essentially, you get a gradient from light to dark, but you can see this gives you depth, but without it being overly dark, you could say. It's not going to have like a super stark black or anything. These are super blendable mattes. You only get 2-3 shimmers in here, so that may be something to look into, but you have so many beautiful matte options in here that just blend seamlessly. K-Beauty is known for the wash of color, just a little bit on the eye, and it's never going to look like too much. And that's why I really appreciate K-Beauty shadows. This is not for you if you have anything deeper than a medium skin tone. Like, fair to light skin tones can use this very well. Anything deeper, you're not gonna like this. Just stay away from it. One of my favorite formulas, again, for fair skin, and also because she does a lot of things in the palettes that are very mid-tone heavy, is Natasha Denona. One of the reasons why I love this brand isn't just because I love the formula, but also because a lot of the color stories they do don't have a lot of contrast. It's all very sort of mid-tone heavy going to light, and there's never something going on that's too much. I Need a Nude is one of my particular favorites, but just pick the one that appeals to you the most. The Xenon is beautiful if you want cool tones, and especially if you're fair-skinned, those undertones are going to show up on you. On a lot of people, they're lost because they don't have the right undertone or whatever, but if you have cool skin and you have very, very fair skin, the undertones of the pinky tones and the blue tones are going to show up. They show up for me. So if you have any sort of coloring that's close to mine, I think you're gonna like it. But the I Need a Nude is my particular favorite ever since it was launched because this is just me in a palette. You get a little bit of warmth, you get a little bit of cool tones, but the way I've always thought of this palette ever since I used it is that this is a great smack down in the middle neutral palette. You can tell this is the deepest thing that comes into this palette. Greatest liner. If you truly want to glam it up, you can. I get enough options for the crease in here. I get shimmers that have a little bit of texture. I have satins that just apply beautifully all over the lid. This has everything I need from an eyeshadow palette. Another brand that does some excellent options for fair skinned people is Glam Shop. They're based in Poland, and I've never been to Poland, so I don't know what the general population looks like, but people from Poland have told me in the comments the reason why Glam Shop does so many good things for people with fair skin is because there are so many fair skinned people in Poland. So I truly want to take them up for their word, and this is their latest release that I have tried. This is the Creme de la Creme. I spotted this on their Instagram, and I instantly knew I had to test it out. This came out this year, so you can still purchase this. It has beautiful, beautiful looks. This does have a little bit more contrast, though. So for those people with fair skin who are like, yeah, but Micah, I do want the contrast, this. It even has a really nice deep shimmer here, so it gives you a little bit more options if you do like contrast, which I enjoy. You get some cool tones in here, you get rosy tones in here, you get some like gray tones in here. It's overall a pretty neutral color story with like a pop of dusty rose. That's the way I would describe this palette. Really beautiful. The shimmers in here are more satin metallic rather than true metallics or flakies, but the brand does do those kind of interesting shimmers. If that's what you're looking for, they do a lot of singles, and also in their palettes and also in the little quads they've been doing this year. Did they start doing them last year? I think they started doing them last year, but they're doing these little quads. They also have some excellent shimmers in there. So this brand just does an array of options depending on what you like. Now this is a palette I show a lot in a lot of like my cool tone videos, but also for fair skin people. I think the ColourPop Cloud 9 is one of the best light colored palettes that is out there. It's more of a cool tone color story. It's pretty neutral leaning, but you get some interest because you do have the holographic shade and some like duochromes and stuff here in the middle, but you also get some like a little bit of depth, but not, again, not too much. And that's why I like this so much. Again, a lot of people hated on this palette when it was released because people were testing this out on medium to deep skin. And of course, this is going to look ashy on you. But if you're fair to light, this is a really beautiful option, especially if you like very soft looks that have that little bit of impactful shimmer in them. That's what this is especially good at, I find. And what this is also really good at is just giving you some very light shades without it being boring. I find very often that brands who do lighter things sometimes always go for the safe options, and I feel that this isn't necessarily that. It just gives you options. It gives you options to be creative, but it gives you loads of different things that you can play with as well. So that's why I like this palette so much. I also wanted to include an oldie but a goodie. I've had this palette for absolute years. I'm not entirely sure that it's still safe to use, but I still love my Tartelette in Bloom. This is a beautiful color story, and I think it's really good for especially people who are like new to makeup, or if you have fair skin and you struggle with things looking good on you. This just does it for you. You get one row of like each flavor you could want. Cool tones, neutrals, warm tones. It just works. You get a deep shade for every row, so every row is a look if you want, or you can mix and match them. Works really well as well. And this is just beautiful shades in. And what I like especially, because that's usually my gripe with neutral palettes, especially around the time that this was launched, is that there were a lot of crease shades that were just far too dark for me. But here, I have several options to use as a crease shade, and it will just never go wrong. So that's why this is incredibly versatile, also if you have fair skin. And this formula is just still one of the easiest to work with out there. I'm now smelling, it still smells like vanilla cupcakes. It still does, even after all these years. But if you have fair skin, maybe you do want something that's a little bit more impactful. You want the crazy shimmers. You want more colorful things. I've got you there as well. These Makeup by Mario palettes, I hope he's coming out with a new one for the fall time this year. This is the Ethereal Eyes Moonlight palette. These tend to be a limited edition though, so that's a bit of a shame. But this was released a little bit more widely than the first one, I feel. So the first one was really beautiful. It's very similar to I Need a Nude though, so you can no longer get the Makeup by Mario one, but if you buy the I Need a Nude, you get the same sort of vibe. But the Ethereal Eyes was the more cool tone version of what the other palette had to offer. You still get a little bit of something like, well, I wouldn't call it warm tones, but true neutrals, and then just some grays, a blue. Do you see those shimmers? Those shimmers are just so wonderful. Like, this has so many things going for it. It's the same formula as the original Ethereal Eyes. I've used that a little bit more because I've had it for a longer time, but this is so, so beautiful. It has those really beautiful sparkles. And when I tested out these Makeup by Mario palettes for the first time, I was like, ooh, we have a new eyeshadow formula on our hands, because especially in the shimmers, like mattes are just going to be mattes. They're blendable, they're easy to use, they're soft, you can build them up, yada, yada, yada. Everything I like in a matte. But the shimmers is where it's at for these, because these shimmers can be layered. You can go in with one layer and you just get a wash of something sparkly. But you can like wet these, use them with a finger, apply 2 or 3 layers, and they will go on opaque. So this is a little bit like a painter's palette, and you just get so many options within one palette. I'm really hoping he's going to be doing a new palette this year. I really, really do. One palette that I think is great for fair skin, but that gives you some colorful options that are a little bit more muted, but it's also going to give you multi-chromes and fun sparkly toppers. Glaminatrix Barely Basics. This I didn't buy with my own money. This was sent to me in PR by Monolith. I was gonna pass up on this. When this was launched last year, I was like, nah, I already have too many neutral palettes to begin with. I don't need this in my life. And then Monolith offered it to me, and I was like, oh, I would have missed out if I hadn't gotten my hands on this one. Essentially what you're getting is just a couple of rows here. You get something cool tone neutral, you get something that's a little bit more warm toned with the oranges and the greens here, and then these purples are again more cool toned. So it's sort of like a blend of something warm and cool. It's neutral but not quite. And then these two rows, I'm going to hold them up closer to the camera and then shift. Oh, do you see? Do you see? Do you see? And then that sort of more intense row of shimmer, so the second row, is really beautiful. They're very impactful shimmers. And then the entire top row looks like white in the top row. They're not. These are the shifting shades. These are the toppers. These are the things that you can use to pair with any of these mattes to create a different look every single time. Use them in the inner corner, layer them over the other shimmers. This is again a palette you can be so creative with, and even if you have fair skin, these colors are just going to work. Depending on how deep you want to go, you can ignore the bottom row if you want to, or again, you can use these as liners, as things to deepen things up, lower lash line, smoke things out, whatever you want to do. It just has so many options, and I think it's perfect for fair skin. But I didn't want to leave all the colorful people hanging. One of my favorite sort of foolproof indie brands in terms of formula is Nomad Cosmetics. And the reason why I call them foolproof is because when I test out so many eyeshadows, and so many indie brands they're very pigment first rather than blendability first. And I feel it's improved over the years. I feel it's a little less offensive now than it used to be. But Nomad has a very different formula compared to other indie brands. A lot of indie brands just do your standard shimmers and your standard mattes, but I feel like the Nomad formula, and I mean this in the best way possible, is a little bit thinner than most indie brands I try. The Nomad brand needs perhaps a little bit more layering to get the impactfulness that you want. A lot of indie brands will have like one swipe and it's like boom, but then it starts to crease because it's too heavy on your lids. That's usually what happens for me. But with Nomad, never the case. And their color stories are so clever. Here we get sort of like blues, greens, and purples, you could say. These pull a little bit more pink on me than berry, which was a surprise because that was the part of the palette that made me question this at first. But this is the Après-Ski Chamonix, and if you do like colorful things, this palette can just see you through. And precisely because the Nomad formula is a little bit thinner, yes, it requires a little bit more building up, but that's why it works so well on fair skin, at least in my opinion. Again, especially with colorful shades like this, I can sometimes struggle making them work on my fair skin because I'm so fair. When I start to blend them, they can muddy up and they can start to look a little bit dirty on my lids. And with Nomad, I have never had that issue, and I have a couple of their brighter options and their more grungy options. They do a couple of really good things. So that's why I wanted to showcase the Chamonix Après-Ski or Après-Ski Chamonix. Yeah, Chamonix Après-Ski right here. Because I just think that Nomad has such a great formula for people with fair skin. If you really struggle with how intense some of the makeup is sometimes, if that's your issue, then definitely check out Nomad because they do some wonderful things and it's never going to look like too much, and you can just keep layering and keep blending and it will always come out fine. So that's it. There you have it. Those are my top 10 favorite fair-skinned eyeshadow palettes. I really hoped you enjoyed watching this video today. Leave your recommendations in the comments down below because I want this to be a conversation, because maybe you've tried things that I haven't tried yet, or maybe you feel differently. That's all fine. And then I really hope you enjoyed watching this video today. Thumbs up the video if you liked it, and subscribe because I do make more videos every single week, 4 times to be exact, over on this channel. And if you haven't yet, enter the giveaway because it's still open until the end of the month. Thanks so much for being here, you guys, and I hope to see you again really, really soon. Bye-bye.